Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Analysis. This is Nathan, and as you might be able to tell, my voice is a little bit gone today, so I'm going to try to get through this as best I can. I apologize for any difficulty hearing because of my voice. Hopefully you can still get the idea of what I'm going for here. So let's hit the news and our terms, and then we'll jump into this analysis and hit all the major points real quickly. Alright guys, and as far as news tomorrow, of course we have some red tagged Euro news which you're going to want to pay attention to. That's economic sentiment, which, sentiment is a huge role in the markets in general. So you want to pay attention to the economic sentiment, absolutely. But the main thing I'm going to be looking for is the Bank of England inflation letter. Depending on the inflation that they see in England, that could really affect the pound. So that's the main thing that I'm going to be looking for tomorrow, certainly in anticipation for what that's going to do to the markets. And that's one that I'd pay attention to. And then, of course, there is 8:30 a.m. US dollar news as well. So those are the three major events there that I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to. There's a fourth one, which is the 4:30 a.m. pound news as well. But to me, that inflation letter is the more important pound news. So a little more focus on that one for me personally. Alright guys, and as far as the terms are concerned, it's just here to let you know that this is for educational purposes only, that we're not registered or licensed or qualified, anything like that. So anything that you hear is only for your education and not us advising you what to do with your money. Okay? So the first thing I'm looking at here is obviously the euro dollar, and still trying to finish this rounding motion, as you can see, touching the trend line and still trying to push up, looking like it does want to head back up and make higher highs. But definitely struggling in the zone. So it's kind of interesting. Before we had this kind of triangle pattern forming right above the 130 area, and now we're kind of struggling with a triangle type pattern below the 130 area. So when it broke down the first time below, it went for quite some time. Here, when it broke through, it didn't go so much. So maybe on the second attempt, if we do get a break, it'll cruise towards higher highs, and that's kind of my anticipation. If we get a strong break, I don't expect it to be another fake out. I would think that if Euro can manage to break this level one more time, that we're talking about definitely higher highs, perhaps all the way up into the 135 zone up here. So that's kind of my anticipation if we can afford to break this. But right now, this rounding motion still has definitely not been completed. So reversals back to the downside are still definitely possible until we break this level, get a strong test and continuation, which will be the final kind of Euro sentiment being totally bullish if it can break that and show some strong continuation past this region here. The pound dollar is slightly different. Let's go to that one. So with the pound dollar, we also have some reversal motion trying to push back up, but it's kind of different because number one, we're not facing as major of a level. I mean, there is this area right here which we've noted, but it's not like the major 130 area on Euro where it's been tested so many times. So the fact that it was already rejected once right here, well, obviously you can see where it headed back down after that, looks to be a strong level. And pulling price into it, but not near the authority that the 130 level has on the euro dollar. Nonetheless, it does seem that price is pushing right off this trend line, which, by the way, this is not really a very consistent trend line. It's kind of difficult to draw a trend line that fits right. You can start from this low and draw like that, but not a very consistent trend line anyway. You try to form it, it just doesn't work real well. But obviously, no matter how you look at it, price has been moving up since this area. So with that said, I think that a bounce off this trend line, and consistency in that is going to lead back up towards this 162.8 level up here. So that's the one that I'm watching for, and it does look like price is going to continue up towards that area. Just depending on things like that pound news that I mentioned. So pound looking very bullish right now, strong bounce. A fake out kind of this morning, and then a pretty good close towards the upward side. It looks like it's going to be. Of course, we do have an hour or so on that, but looks like it's going to be a pretty good close to the bullish side, which would lead toward bullish sentiment on the pound. This is the pound, by the way. I didn't have my label in there, but this is the pound. Next, we're going to look at the odd dollar. And as we mentioned before, the odd is in this kind of triangle-shaped pattern wedging towards the 102 level. Price is certainly converging more and more each month as it looks right now. If we zoom in, you can kind of see that there's some base building action in the middle of this area, which is a pretty strong support level actually right in the middle of this wedge. So it's looking like price is trying to bounce up and test the top of this trend line in this area before coming back down to test perhaps the bottom. So that's kind of looking like the pattern it's going to take up and then back down. It's been doing that obviously quite a bit. You can see that this was one that didn't go all the way down but went back up and tested again. Looks like it's going to continue to do that at least one more time before heading back down. So we'll see. I mean, I assume that eventually it is going to break back through the bottom and test the bottom area here, but right now it's looking like it's trying to bounce back up to the top of the wedge that we have formed here. So bullish to me, even though it's been kind of ugly with price action, still looking like it wants to bounce back up to the top level here. All right, let's check out the pound yen. And I just want to note that pound yen is bouncing back through this trend line, looking like it wants to come up and test this level one more time. The pound yen obviously has had some fake outs. Here I thought perhaps we were going towards the higher high of this, but we didn't. Instead, it reversed below the trend line, actually broke right back down, and is now pushing back up through the trend line. So kind of getting back into this wedge, and if we break out, we might eventually see that higher high that we were expecting a little while ago. So keep an eye on that one. Of course, another pair that failed to make a higher high was this one, the euro pound, looking like it wanted to go up and kind of continue this expanding wedge to the upside, but ran into trouble here. We had some reversal and now it's chopping. So a potential of a retouch, or excuse me, a re-rally to the upside to continue and make a higher high is something that I still think is very possible. However, it's going to need to break out of this little tiny channel that it's building right here and break towards the upside for that to be a reality. So that's what I'm still waiting on. Hasn't quite formulated. Just a lot of stalling action right now. But if it can eclipse this little high and break through that, it will look to me, that's a bad triangle, it'll look to me like it is trying to go ahead and make a higher high on that, which is one thing that I've been waiting for since this reversal, which I never really bought into this reversal heading back down. I thought that the potential for it to make a higher high was much more probable than a total reverse back to the bottom trend line. So that's kind of something I'm still thinking and waiting on with the euro pound. All right, and the last thing I wanted to mention today was a US yen possible breakout. Not a lot of confidence yet based in this bar, but it's been several months since we've broken out of this wedge here that I have drawn. So a real breakout could certainly mean some upward movement for the USD yen, and that's one that I'll be keeping an eye on. So I'd advise you to do the same. Potentially what we could get is a break here, a retest, and then a strong continuation. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on and pay attention to if you're a US yen trader. Alrighty guys, that's it for today's analysis. Thank you so much for stopping by. And again, I do apologize for my voice being a little rough today. Hopefully I'll bounce back, be a little better tomorrow, and be sure to check in for the analysis tomorrow as well. I'll talk to you soon.